This episode is brought to you by Magellan TV. We've really been enjoying our Magellan TV subscription, and we hope you have too. We're excited to announce that Magellan is now offering a buy one get one free gift card for the people in your life you want to give the gift of knowledge to. If you go to our page in the description, there will be a banner to take advantage of this limited offer for our YouTube viewers. Purchasing a gift card any time of the year will also give you an additional month of Magellan TV for free, even if you're already a member. So now is the time to try it and share it with your friends and family if you haven't already. If you're already a member, here's our documentary recommendation: Operation Foxley, Mission, Liquidate Hitler. Using declassified documents, you can learn about how the SOE planned to assassinate Hitler. You can see the specialized weapons and gadgets, the strategy and the ideal locations to carry out such a mission, and why in the end the plan ultimately failed. For those that haven't subscribed yet, Magellan TV is a documentary streaming membership service founded by filmmakers, bringing you premium content and diving deep into the subjects you want to learn more about. Magellan TV has the richest and most varied content on history available anywhere. Magellan TV has over 3,000 plus documentary movies, series, and exclusive playlists, many available in 4K. They have ancient, modern, current, early modern, war and biographical history, science, space, and even true crime, which can be watched anywhere on your TV, laptop, or mobile device. All the shows are without interruptions from commercials. We've got a special offer where you can check it out all for free. Simple History viewers get a 1-month free trial membership. Just go to try.magellantv.com/simplehistory or click the link in the description below and you can check out our documentary recommendation, Operation Foxley, Mission Liquidate Hitler, for free. The Werewolf Holdouts, Last-Ditch Nazi Resistance, World War II. In 1944, there was a widespread realization among the Nazi leadership that they could actually lose the war. Then on June 6th of that year, their worst fears came true when the Allies successfully landed a massive invasion force at Normandy in northern France and threatened to retake occupied Europe. The Nazi leadership quickly started to fall apart after that point, and there was even a serious attempt on July 20th, 1944 to assassinate Hitler with a bomb at his Wolf Lair headquarters in East Prussia. Hitler and his senior officials were looking for a last resort to keep Nazi ideology alive and turned to the supernatural for inspiration. The Germans proceeded to put a contingency plan into place, codenamed Operation Werewolf. The idea was to create a covert resistance force to continue the Nazi struggle as the Allies advanced through Germany. The strategy was not so much to win the war by guerrilla fighting, but to hold out long enough for a political settlement more favorable to Germany. Werewolves and wolves were used as symbols of German strength against those seeking to destroy them. The movement was designed to be decentralized and was mainly overseen by regional security officials. This was partly a reaction to the military bombardment under which Germany found itself. Decentralization would allow groups to operate independently should any part of the network fail. Towards the end of that year, Heinrich Himmler, who was head of the feared Waffen-SS, had recruited one of his most senior officers, a Nazi fanatic called Hans-Adolf, to set up, train, and coordinate the new werewolf units. These elite groups of volunteers were to be trained in guerrilla warfare tactics, sniping, sabotage, assassination, and fashioning improvised explosives. They were ordered to sabotage, commit acts of terrorism, suppress German collaboration, and generally make life as difficult as possible for the occupying Allies. They were supposed to be provided with the latest specialized equipment like suppressed pistols, fireproof coats, and high-tech sniper rifles to carry out these missions. But the werewolf units never saw their full realization, as Nazi Germany fell into total disarray from the constant Allied aerial bombing. This had caused severe equipment shortages, as Germany's industrial base was almost completely destroyed. By the end of 1944, Preutzmann had only gathered about 5,000 fighters. Nevertheless, by early 1945, several hundred recruits had been trained at the Werewolf's chief training camp at the medieval Hohlkrath Castle near Erkelenz in Germany. Most of these recruits were drawn from the Hitler Youth. One of the few wartime missions carried out by members of the Werewolf organization was Operation Carnival on March 20th, 1945. During this mission, a werewolf unit parachuted into a Belgian forest on the Dutch-Belgian border outside of the German city of Aachen, using a captured Luftwaffe-operated U.S. Army B-17 Flying Fortress bomber. Their target for assassination was the Allied-appointed mayor of Aachen, Franz Oppenhoff, who the Nazis considered to be a traitor. They used intelligence to discover Oppenhoff's whereabouts and successfully assassinated him on March 25, 1945. In fact, he was killed by an SS unit which was composed of werewolf trainees from Hulkrath Castle. One of the 6-person team was Isa Hirsch, who was a League of German Maidens girl and a captain. She was chosen because she would arouse less suspicion as Allied patrols were looking for military-aged men wandering around. The werewolf unit pretended to be German pilots who were looking for the front lines. As Oppenhoff persuaded them to surrender, they shouted "Heil Hitler!" and shot Oppenhoff in the head. One of the assassins was killed, and Hirsch was injured afterwards when they triggered a landmine while fleeing through a nearby forest. The landmine was likely placed by the German army. The rest of the werewolf unit escaped into the countryside. A small group of SS Werewolf staff were able to make their way into the Alps after the surrender, where they joined forces with a few soldiers and attempted to make a last stand. The makeshift unit was beset with problems, bad weather, breakdowns, and unsurprisingly, desertions, and was finally defeated by US forces. Much was made of the propaganda value of these so-called werewolf units, with German newspapers running sensational and mostly fictitious headlines such as "Fury of Nazi werewolves to be unleashed on invaders." Lieutenant Otto Skorzeny, a commando specialist and holder of the Knight's Cross, was later brought in to oversee training and further development of the werewolf units. Jürgen Stroop, famous for crushing the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising of 1943, was also asked to consult. They were stunned to find out that the number of werewolf cells had been greatly exaggerated, and those few units in existence were highly disorganized. Even the secret supply dumps buried around the country were not properly recorded, so few of the units knew where any of them actually were. The explosives, ammunition, and weapons had been buried in 1939, but by 1945 no one knew their location, and the advancing Soviets discovered most of them. Skorzeny then turned the efforts of Operation Werewolf towards establishing a Nazi underground railroad, which allowed thousands of SS officers to travel along escape routes called rat lines and flee. On March 23, 1945, Joseph Goebbels, the Minister for Public Enlightenment and Propaganda, gave a speech known as the Werewolf Speech, in which he said it was every German's duty to fight to the death. Then on April 1st, Radio Werewolf started broadcasting from a small town in eastern Germany, and its message was simple: resist the Allied invaders by whatever means possible. It began each program with a howling wolf sound and a song with the words, "My werewolf teeth bite the enemy." The radio station was on the air for only a matter of weeks, but it enthusiastically claimed several high-ranking Allied officers had been successfully assassinated by werewolf units, including Major General Maurice Rose, commander of the U.S. 3rd Armored Division, and British Major John Poston, liaison officer of Field Marshal Bernard Law Montgomery. In fact, both of these deaths were actually due to being in combat against German regular army units. In early April 1945, Goebbels' top aide, a Nazi called Werner Naumann, sent out a long and rambling message to the heads of all major propaganda offices across Germany. He called on them to encourage the German people to prepare and continue fighting beyond the end of the war. All of this created the illusion of an organized and dedicated Nazi secret resistance, so much so that the Allies took the threat seriously. Operation Werewolf was highly effective in its psychological impact that it had on the Allies and on German civilians. Hitler had committed suicide by shooting himself on April 30th, 1945, in his Führerbunker in Berlin. But for a while, every act of sabotage, mysterious accident, or misfortune that befell the Allied occupiers in Germany after the war ended in Europe on May 8, 1945, was credited to the werewolves. For a long time, Allied commanders had been concerned that they would face a wide-scale German insurgency and were terrified they were going to become embroiled in a partisan war that could drag out for years. Rumors concerning Operation Werewolf played directly into this fear. Allied propaganda meant that for the first few months of the occupation, there was a strict policy of non-fraternization with German citizens. Resistors were often shot or hanged, and it was believed that any German showing their right ear in an ID card photo was a secret wolf. Even local groups who offered to assist in the hunt for Nazis were not above suspicion. Strict regulations were placed on the German population, curfews were established, and it was made illegal to own firearms. By some estimates, between 3,000 to 5,000 German civilians and soldiers lost their lives in Allied reprisals out of fear of werewolf units. This fear eventually subsided, as the werewolf threat seemed to simply fade away, as the danger of the Nazis continuing an armed struggle never really materialized. Ultimately, the werewolf's propaganda value ended up far outweighing its actual achievements. In fact, the damage done was mostly to the German citizenry, since historians estimate that several thousand deaths resulted from the werewolf campaigns, because they targeted all those who welcomed the Allies. A few other groups of werewolves were able to hold out until 1947, but for the most part they were limited to slogan painting and acts of sabotage. After the war, the Allies carried out a highly successful policy of denazification, which was designed to eradicate all the symbols, political organizations, and figureheads that had been created to support the Nazi culture from German society. Then the new rising danger was the Soviet Union and its allies. Rather than continue to fight against the occupying forces of Great Britain, the United States, and France, the German people were more concerned in dealing with this new impending threat. So soon, the West German countryside would be full of large packs of leopards with roaming lynxes flying overhead and cobras hiding in every hedgerow in an attempt to deter any attack by the Soviet Union.